Hey there, Limitless family. So this is going to be the last week we kind of look back on Isaiah 53 and how it relates to this life of Jesus. We've gone from creation all the way to Christ, and this is going to be the last week we talk about Jesus. And you know what that means. It means that, well, not the last week we talk about Jesus, right? Because we're going to be talking about him a lot. Especially in that celebration service we have coming up. So remember that, because we want to celebrate what Jesus has been doing in each other's lives, what we've been seeing do around us. We know that he is still at work today, so let's celebrate that. But this is going to be the conclusion of our look from creation to Christ, and so that means we're going to be looking at Jesus's crucifixion, burial, and resurrection today in Luke 23. So his crucifixion, burial, and resurrection in Luke 23. So looking at that, there's something really important here when we're looking at this event. You know, as you go through the Gospels, there's multiple chapters that you can look at concerning his trial, his death, his burial, his resurrection. Something in Isaiah 53 that actually talks about this starts at verse 9. And so I want us to go ahead and read that. Isaiah 53 verses 9, and then we're going to go all the way up to the start of verse 11. It says this: "And they made his grave with the wicked and with the rich man in his death, although he had done no violence, and there was no deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him. He has put him to grief. When his soul makes an offering for guilt, he shall see his offspring. He shall prolong his days. The will of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. Out of the anguish of his soul, he shall see and be satisfied." You guys, there are a few things there, a few things that are really important, but I want us to really hold on to one note from this, and we can get more into this and all these other things that this touches on in our discussion. But the one thing I want us to touch on and really focus in on, in this video at least, is how his suffering, his anguish, it says the anguish of his soul, through that he would be satisfied. You guys, sometimes, and kids, I need you to hear this. This is really important, really great life lesson to hold on to. A lot of times, the things that are worth it, the things that we remember most, some of our greatest memories, some of our greatest accomplishments come with pain. They come pushing through trial, pushing through suffering, pushing through pain. If it's really worth it, a lot of times it's difficult to get there. And that's something we're seeing here in these verses where it says, out of the anguish of his soul, he shall be satisfied. Jesus went through such a horrendous event. And kids, I want you guys to think of some times, maybe in your own life, maybe that you've seen or you can think of, that these are things that it's difficult to do. Maybe there was some hurt, maybe there was some pain associated with it and getting there. Maybe it's hard to make it happen, but once you get it done, man, the joy that comes, the satisfaction that comes from it. I want you guys to think of some things and write a list, trying to think of some things. You can also draw. If you can't maybe spell the words, draw these things out that are difficult to accomplish, that were difficult to accomplish, that brought some pain. But man, the satisfaction that came from it, the joy that came from it when it was done and finished and something big was accomplished, right? we see this within Jesus. We see this in his crucifixion, his burial, his resurrection. You know, in Isaiah 53, it says how they made his grave with the wicked, and that's referring to how he was crucified with robbers on both sides, right? He was crucified and he was sentenced, even though he had done no violence and there was no deceit in his mouth. He was sentenced to death and crucified alongside of criminals, alongside of the wicked. And it says, and with the rich in his death, because he was buried in the tomb of Nicodemus, or actually, he was buried in the tomb of one of the Pharisees that was a very wealthy Pharisee. And so this guy, this rich man, gave Jesus his tomb. And that's why it says, with the rich in his death, there in Isaiah 53. So we see Jesus go through this great suffering. We see, though, that it did not end there. And guys, we have to remember that so many times, times of difficulty, times of pain, God is molding, he's shaping, he's setting us up. His end goal in mind is not to leave us there. His end goal is something glorious, like the resurrection that we see in Jesus. And with that in mind, let us get into discussion about this chapter, about Luke 23, how it correlates here with Isaiah 53, but more importantly, how can we apply this to our lives? What does this mean for us? What nuggets can we take and walk and live out? As we do this, as we read these things and we discuss them and we apply them to our lives, we will build relationships that change lives.
You